never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there today here on the channel. I'm going to be talking some college football AP poll. Of course, it always comes out on Sundays throughout the college football season, so you've had some time to look it over and think about it and ponder over it. So if you have any thoughts on it, please feel free to let me know. But first, I want to talk some Braves baseball. The Braves have clinched the division, and it's a good thing they have, because the last 4 or 5 days they have played like absolute doo-doo. Their pitching is not pitching very well. Their hitting is not hitting very well. And their fans aren't fanning very well. So it's a good thing they have clinched the division. But playing like this right before the playoffs always scares me, because I feel like you're losing all your momentum and everything you've had going good this whole season, and now you're playing like a hot pile of doo-doo, and now you've got to get it back going again before it comes back to bite you in the playoffs. But they did clinch the division last week. I thought they were going to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and they still have a chance to, but since they've played like crap the past 4 or 5 days, the Dodgers are slowly catching them, so they may not get home field advantage after all. But of course, we'll talk more Braves baseball when the playoffs get here. I really haven't talked a lot about them because they've pretty much had this division won since the middle of June, so there really hasn't been much to talk about, because when you take the division and run away with it, in my opinion, there's not much to talk about until the playoffs get here. And speaking of baseball, Deion Sanders was interviewed last week. Of course, we all know that he played baseball and football back in the day, and now he's coaching football. But he was asked, out of everything you've done, what is the hardest thing to do? And he said, hit a baseball. And that's why I've always said baseball is the best sport, because you have a split second to guess where the ball is going and swing and hit it. And baseballs aren't very big, and you know it's hard to do because you look at a quarterback. If a quarterback completes 3 out of 10 passes, he sucks. If a basketball player makes 3 out of 10 shots, he either totally sucks or he sucked that particular night. But in baseball, if you get 3 hits and 10 official at-bats, you're a Hall of Famer. So 30% in baseball is phenomenal, but 30% in basketball and football is terrible. And that should tell you how hard it is to hit a baseball, which is why baseball is the best sport there is. And I want to talk some NFL for a minute. I don't want to say too much about the late game last night because it was a long game, especially for the NFL. That Browns and Steelers game was about as long, if not longer, than some college football games. But I will say this, just in the first quarter alone, both teams fumbled, both teams threw a pick, and the Browns missed a field goal. And then early second quarter, Nick Chubb hurt his knee, and as of this video, I have not officially heard how long he's going to be out, but it was pretty gruesome. It was pretty significant, so I'll say he's going to be out for at least 6 to 8 weeks, and that's minimum. So we'll see what the Browns do at running back. If he is out for that long, will they go out and try to make a trade or sign a free agent, or will they just work with what they have? But Sunday, we had the Eagles beating the Vikings 34-28. That was back on Thursday night football. The Ravens beat the Bengals 27-24. The Seahawks beat the Lions 37-31. The Colts beat the Texans 31-20. The Bucks beat the Bears 27-17. The Chiefs beat the Jaguars in a low-scoring game 17-9. And speaking of the Texans, they have a kicker whose last name is Fairbairn. I saw his official first and last name the other day, and if you want to see somebody with a long first name, go look up Fairbairn and see what his actual birth name is, and you'll understand why they cut his name short. The Falcons beat the Packers 25-24. The Bills all over the Raiders 38-10. The Titans beat the Chargers 27-24. The 49ers beat the Rams 30-23. And the Chargers seem like the most snake-bit team that I've ever seen in the NFL. Years ago, Norv Turner was their coach, back when you still played 16 games, and they had the number one offense in the NFL, the number one defense in the NFL, and they still went 8-8. And so far this year, in the first 2 games, they've scored 58 points, which is close to 30 points a game. That's pretty good in the NFL. They have not turned the ball over on offense yet, and they're still 0-2. That's just a team that no matter who's their coach, no matter who they draft, who they trade for, who they sign, they always have a great roster on paper, but for whatever reason on the field, they just can't win. The Giants come from behind and beat the Cardinals 31-28. We go back to last week when the Giants looked like bad hot pile of doo-doo against the Cowboys. And this game, they were down by 20 in the third quarter against the Cardinals, who are, if not the worst team in the league, the second worst team in the league. But the Giants were able to come back and win. If they would have lost that game, that would have been embarrassing. I feel bad for Josh Dobbs because, to me, Josh Dobbs has always played good when he's had the chance. And he's played good for the Cardinals so far this year. But that team just has no talent whatsoever. The Cowboys beat the Jets 30-10. Commanders beat the Broncos 35-33. Sunday night football, the Dolphins beat the Patriots. And then the early Monday night game last night, the Saints beat the Panthers 20-17. So now in that division you have the Bucks, the Falcons, and the Saints that are all 3-2-0, and the Panthers are 0-2. And now for the college football AP poll, Georgia still number 1, followed by Michigan, Texas, Florida State, and USC. 6 through 10, we have Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Notre Dame, and Oregon. Utah, 11, LSU, 12, Alabama, 13, Oregon State, 14, and Ole Miss is 15. And Alabama falls out of the top 10. I believe I heard for the first time in like 4 years, I think, or 5 years, that Alabama is not in the top 10, which they shouldn't be because they look absolutely hideous. But I will say that Nick Saban was getting questioned about who his quarterback was going to be. And of course, we know he started Milroe in the first 2 games, and they lost to Texas, but it wasn't Milroe's fault. But I think Nick Saban has kind of, we'll say, hush-hushed the critics, because this past Saturday they played South Florida, and they could have beat South Florida with anybody at quarterback. So he went out and played Buckner, played Simpson, and did not play Milroe at all, and their offense looked putrid. So now they've gone back to Milroe. So I think everybody should know now that out of Bama's 3 quarterbacks, Milroe may not be great, but he's their best option. Oklahoma, 16. North Carolina, 17. Duke, 18. Colorado, 19. And Miami is 20. And 21 through 25 is Washington State, UCLA, Tennessee, Iowa, and Florida. And of course, coming up sometime later on in the week, we'll talk about all the big games coming up this Saturday, and there is a ton of them. So this AP poll is going to look completely different when it comes out this upcoming Sunday. There are probably, I would say, off the top of my head, about 10 good games this week. So this is a Saturday where you ain't got to worry about, man, at such and such time, there's not a good game on. There's good games on all day long. Saturday, it's going to be hard to decide which game you want to watch. This is a Saturday where if you've got a man cave with 4 or 5 TVs, you're going to be in there with all the TVs on. And if you've got a TV that does multi-view, you're going to have a split screen, if not 3 screens, because there's some good games on this Saturday. Of course, we'll talk about that coming up sometime later on in the week. If you have any early thoughts on this weekend and some of the games you're excited about watching, please feel free to let me know. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call ghost poop? Boo, boo. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.